What would you do if you had a consistent flow of inbound seller referrals coming to you from attorneys? Stay tuned, that's what we're talking about today. What's happening? J.C Agajanian, broker associate with the Whissel Realty Group at eXp. And today we are discussing networking with senior community leaders and estate attorneys in order to help sell these homes when people are, frankly, moving out of them. The idea is to talk with people who are no longer able to care for themselves. They're moving into a senior home. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's a memory care situation, but for one reason or another, they can no longer be in their home on their own and they're moving into a care facility. How are we going to get our hands on these leads is the question, right? Like clearly every day people are realizing that their time is up on their own and they now need help to get through the day from a professional like a nurse or a doctor. And their homes need to be sold most part because it's so expensive to move into these care facilities. So they, kind of transfer all this equity that they've owned in this home for 60 years, cash it out, and now they're able to pay for the exorbitant fees of these care facilities. So, what are you going to do, first of all, to network in to get these estate attorneys who are meeting with these seniors and frankly, more often than not, families of the seniors who are making these decisions? Drop by us is probably a good way with attorneys. Frankly, you pop by with something nice to give them on a regular basis. Maybe on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, you go big and you make it like a nice thing with some champagne, some meats and cheeses, kind of over the top. Nice pop by. You're going to have an easier way of cutting through the clutter and speaking with the actual person who makes the decisions in that office by doing something like that than you would just calling and asking for the right person. Over the phone is not a terrible idea though. It's just going to be a little more effort. You're going to have to be very direct and, more importantly, very persistent to get past the gatekeepers who are most definitely going to be in place there to keep phone calls like this from the actual attorney, like I said, making these decisions. So they're set there in place on purpose. So we need to figure out how to move past them. And a lot of times, if you're just really not aggressive, but persistent, we'll say, and there's a regular flow of calls, eventually you're going to get a call back and they're going to say, listen, do we want to work with you? Do we not? Am I okay talking to you further in the future? But they're going to get frustrated with the constant messages. So that's one way to do it as far as over the phone goes. But just like, most seller leads that we get, these attorney relationships are going to take a lot of nurture, right? They're not going to just pick up the phone, hear that you're a realtor that says they do a good job, and then say, yeah, here's my client, right? This could take a year or two of pursuing this relationship with an individual attorney. And chances are you're going to be doing this in more than one direction. So maybe there's a handful of attorneys that you're going after. It's going to take a lot of effort to do it, but it's possible. And the rewards are quite valuable. Once you get into a position of trust with an attorney like this, and they're willing to give you the name and the number and the endorsement to a family who has a senior member looking to sell a property, you're probably going to be the only one they call, and you're probably going to get the business all the time. A different approach that you can take instead of going to these, pop buys, maybe attorney events that you come across, or the hard phone calls, is to try and come up with ways that you can actually offer value to them first instead of putting your hand out with that initial call. And this just looks like you kind of flipping the outlook in the conversation a little bit and saying, how can I help this person? And maybe you explain to them that you do a lot of business, and you flip this pitch and you say, how can I recommend you? I sometimes have people that are elderly and need a fantastic attorney. I might need to refer business to someone like yourself. I'd love to know a little bit more about how you work, how you do your business, what's the best way of making a referral like this, and why, frankly, we ought to send them to you instead of somebody else who's got some advertisements going on here in town. And then you follow through, and even that softer, more valuable pitch to the attorney might still be met with some resistance. So understand that, follow through, and then come up with a referral for them as soon as you can. Frankly, like, you don't want to just pitch something like this and have it just be nothing but fluff. Even if it's not exactly what you described, maybe it's somebody who needs an attorney for some other reason, at least you're following through by sending that person a name and a number and potential business, which is what they want. And only after you do that will that person be more likely to refer back to you. Maybe not only, but certainly more likely. As far as other ways to get in with people like this, watch your local Facebook groups. I mean, there's probably a dads of your city, within Facebook, or aging parents groups, or something else that's like a niche that's similar or maybe peripheral that could come across with questions pertaining to real estate and or something related. And you can either take that and maybe help someone yourself if it's real estate related, or maybe someone's asking an attorney type question and you can grab that person and say, hey, I know somebody who can help you with that. Now you found your referral and you can send it over to that attorney that you're talking about, and you followed through like you said you would right away. Of course, don't overlook the events that are thrown by funeral homes. You can attend those, you can network in with them and figure out what happens ahead of time, because a lot of times they will be preparing family members for the in-between before they get to that funeral home. Like, hey, these are your great, this is a good memory care. This is a good, halfway house before they're completely dependent on someone else. And those types of events can lead you to the right contacts as well. There's also a much softer touch that you can get to who is not an attorney. This is probably, the attorneys are probably the hardest people to talk to. We talked about gatekeepers and how to get past them and how to appeal to them and all this stuff. But there's a leasing agent at the local senior community who is going to be one of the easiest people to talk to, because they've got their door open and they're ready to talk to potential community members every single day, right? They speak to the family of the elderly person in most cases, who's actually making the decisions for this senior member. And oftentimes they then get sticker shock with how much it costs to actually move into a community like that. And frequently the leasing agent will be the one to say, you know what, if you're talking about selling your property, we know that this guy over here works in the neighborhood, does a great job, and has actually stopped by and provided some great collateral. Here's some information about selling your home as a senior member. These are some questions that can be answered ahead of time, frequently asked questions, and by the way, his contact information is on the bottom. Setting something like that up is a great way to go that actually sidesteps the attorney and, maybe a little bit of a softer touch. So consider that as well. As usual, I'm happy to answer any questions or just bring up this topic in conversation one-on-one. So feel free to shoot me a message right here, and I look forward to talking to you soon.